Back in Sweden for the second time in Malmö, the third DreamHack Masters kicked off in late August. Everybody wanted to test their strength in this world-class competition.
In 2017 I was in a really weird state of mind when it comes to CS, but yeah, in general the G2 super team had a lot of pressure on them.
Going undefeated through the group stage, G2 gained confidence. Now the Brazilian powerhouse SK Gaming waited in the playoffs.
They were like the best team in the world, literally at this time. And I remember that we should have lost that game.
Very good now. Apex has been playing like an absolute beast. 3 in total, all headshots, of course.
We knew that the task we've just made was probably like the biggest step of the tournament, you know?
One pistol's here, but that's giving it up. Kenny S hits the first 2 shots. Of course he does.
The semi-final was really exciting to play because, well, first of all, everybody loves an IP. So it was really exciting for us to play against the crowd. I personally enjoyed that a lot.
Let's go, Nemiga!
We never let the game go, you know, which could have happened, but we never did.
In the grand final, G2 faced a somewhat unexpected opponent. North, with newcomer Valde showing off his strength.
Back to pistols for the north side of things.
The flank for Apex not quick enough. Valde comes charging through it, and North winning a critical round here at the grand finals.
We didn't have a beef, but I would say that it was a pretty cool matchup to play, and we are really happy to destroy them every time we had the opportunity to destroy them.
Just 20 seconds flash into the middle. A great setup here. Body gonna get one, and Shox will follow it up close range. 10 seconds left now. 9 seconds. Flick comes in on Valde, dropping the bomb. G2 Esports have played an incredible tournament, just 1 kill away, and it's gonna happen. 16-9 as G2 are your DreamHack Masters champions.
It's always good to have a look at the champions that have come through the ages, but of course with 2 teams already falling, Vince, we're starting to edge ever closer to who's going to take another DreamHack Masters trophy.
Yeah, we're also losing one pretty huge team today as well, Tom. Liquid or Astralis are already going out, and it's just been absolutely insane. Like, honestly, I can't wait to see what's around the corner. Still plenty of great teams. Today, we're going to be casting some of them.
Well, we've got one more team to eliminate in the early stages of today, but for now, let's get DreamHack Winter started once again.
DreamHack Masters Winter is brought to you by Intel, Corsair, Monster Energy, and MSI.
Hello and welcome back. We're going to be going into what is day 3 of DreamHack Masters Winter. As said, we've already lost a couple of teams. They have fallen by the wayside, some in pretty close fashion on this B stream, Vince. It was a tough one for Contact yesterday, and I almost have to say I feel a little bit bad for them. I know we're going to be going into some highlights that I'm hoping we can talk over as we go, but well, maybe this is one that I'm not sure we necessarily want to see again.
Yeah, that was pretty much North just getting slapped right in the face by, let's be honest, a pretty disrespectful Furia. They said that they felt like North were going to be a team that were losing and lacking a little bit of guidance and finding their identity kind of fitting into place. They never let them really get any kind of breath. And this obviously is the second game that we casted. That very unfortunate loss that Contact did lose out in the third map in an overtime, no less, taking FaZe their absolute limits. Some great plays. Esperanto on Dust 2 ended up with 37 frags. He was absolutely lights out. And just a very impressive performance overall from Contact. Even though they went 0-2, Tom, they did lose to Heroic and FaZe. Like, you can't be too ashamed about that.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where you kind of look at it and go, sure, it's a FaZe that's not necessarily in the best of form. And I do start to wonder, like, how they're going to do in this tournament, because let's be real, a FaZe of past should have walked over that game, but never really came too close. Then we saw another ridiculous overtime coming out between Spirit and Heroic as well. And then, of course, we had the North American side of the bracket. Moving on from this, though, Vince, there's one thing we have to say, and that's a little bit of a thank you to some of the guys that are making this event possible. We have the likes of Intel, Corsair, Monster, MSI, and the American Air Force, who, as said, they basically make everything possible. Without them, there would be no DreamHack Masters Winter. So for all the content you're getting to see, you can thank those guys, maybe buy some of their fantastic products along the way. That's up to you. But nonetheless, we are going to get on with our groups. We're going to move into EU and have a look at how things have been going so far. That's mainly where me and Vince have resided so far. And, well, there's definitely been a few surprises through to the playoffs. Heroic, well, we could have called that one from the beginning, but Gambit, after winning DreamHack Open literal days ago, have already made it through to the playoffs of Masters.
Yeah, and they've pretty much breezed it. A 2-0 against Complexity. I'm not sure many people would have expected Gambit to go as convincing as this. Maybe apart from us, Tom. We got to see them firsthand. They lost the first map in those finals of November and still blitzed Spirit pretty convincingly in the end. And it's great to see that they've continued the form, that they've not let off. They've continued to put their foot to the floor. And a lot of people actually have them as a dark horse to win the whole thing now.
Yeah, I'm not overly surprised by that either. I think they've been fantastic, even getting high praise from some of their opponents, which I would say is rare, especially for a CIS team. Like, most of the time, people would just be like, oh, they've got really good aim. They just beat us on individual duels or something like that. But when the interview with Rush came through, he was basically saying, like, no, I've seen them as a good team for a while. I'm not going to take this one lightly. And they still lost. It wasn't a match that I'm sure they're going to be particularly proud of. Nonetheless, we can make a move into Group B, which, again, where we've got a few surprises along the way. Of course, Godsent beating out Astralis. That was something we got to witness. And, of course, on this stream today as well, we will see Godsent versus Mouse. And, wow, if Godsent and Gambit are two of the teams straight through to playoffs, I think there's going to be some serious upsets going into that lower bracket.
Indeed, especially considering that we said this a few times, especially in the first day when we were leading out and having a look at the groups. The Group B is the group of death, and yet already you've got two of the plucky sort of underdogs battling out in the top side, and I use that term loosely because obviously Mousesports and Godsent. Godsent have maybe turned a few more heads, but Mousesports a team that have a lot of ability, a lot of talent on that roster. They've put down Astralis, Liquid. It's been kind of an absolute bombshell of what's going on there. And one of those two teams indeed going through towards the playoff stage will be quite a surprise. We'll get a chance to cast that later though, Tom. We actually have that game. So it'll be cool to see, like, if Emmy can continue to lead by example. Obviously, we've got a great interview with him, or if Mousesports will take them down.
Yeah, I think either way, we're going to get a fantastic interview after that game. We're very lucky to have both those teams available in North America. Now, already we sort of had the surprise of Triumph falling to Rebirth. I think that game is going to be interesting, see if Rebirth can continue that trend, because we have still looked to see who's going to be the powerhouse of North America. Now, a lot of teams have sort of moved away, and with Chaos dropping their team and them being potentially the ones to look for, it's a bit of a surprise. I also saw a little bit of the other group yesterday in Group B with the guys at Mythic putting up a pretty decent fight versus the Whalers. I was watching a Dren back after obviously his stint at coaching, was manning that AWP like an absolute machine. And they managed to make it through into that upper bracket matchup to face off against Team 1. So you never know. Maybe the stream team's going to come back. I'm sure that some of your friends on that roster will be very happy with their performance of yesterday.
Yeah, I saw a bunch of these kind of crazy highlights from Davey, a team that I think on paper, like in the most case, you don't really expect them to go too far, but we already discussed that like the NA side of things, not exactly the most powerful, and it's great to see though that Mythic are putting some boots to asses, and long may that continue.
Well, we can have a little bit of a look towards what matches are going to be coming up today, both on this stream and on the main stream. And I know for a fact, Vince, we have got some absolute bangers of matches. So, we are skipping it. We're moving away. But I'm sure we can tell you ourselves that we do have the likes of G2 facing off against Furia, which is that's going to be a ridiculous match. Of course, on our stream, we also have Godsent versus Mousesports, as we mentioned moments ago. And of course, the thing that we're going to be looking towards is as what is actually at stake, like what we're going to be looking at in terms of what the teams are playing for. Of course, there's plenty of money on offer, but that's not really the main gist of things here. Is the ESL Pro Tour it's the main focus, I think, for a lot of these rosters, a chance to get themselves towards Katowice events, which that's basically the event you want to be at every single year.
Oh yeah, I mean, obviously it's hosted a major in the past. It is one of the staples of Counter-Strike. You know, it's one of the events that every team wants to go to and has so much stature. So absolutely want to be involved in that.
Well, nonetheless, we are going to be hearing from our master interviewer. And again, you might think of Banks or Frankie or other fantastic members of our broadcast, but there's only one person I want asking my questions, and that is the legendary GetRight.
For almost my entire life, playing Counter-Strike was everything, and it was everything I dreamed of. I won trophies, traveled the world, and played in the biggest arenas. I spent my career as a player being asked the same stupid questions.
How do you feel?
Over and over.
What went wrong?
And over again.
You had a terrible CT side. How did you turn it round to take the game? Why are Astralis the best team in the world?
But now I have decided to face a new challenge, to interview the players I once faced on the servers. Because if Frankie can do it, I mean, anyone can do it. Hi Nico, thank you so much for taking your time to chit-chat with me for the upcoming Masters tournament. How are you doing, buddy?
Hey Chris, I'm doing alright. Just having an off day right now, so I'm happy to do some content with you. I haven't seen you in a long time and heard of you, so always happy with some interviews.
Thank you. I appreciate it big times. Okay, so let's just get right into it. Like, I know since this year has been very special for basically everyone in the scene, especially for you, since, I mean, you changed team, also because of the COVID, so there's like no lands and all that kind of things. But since you've been doing such a big growth in general, like you've been working out more, getting more healthier, you know, your lifestyle has changed a lot through the years. Like, how would you describe your like mental stage and your health-wise when you like came into the big leagues in phase, basically?
It helps you a lot just to like release some pressure after the game, or like even before the game. Like if you have like routine before the game, like it just puts you in the right mindset once you get into the game. Like, you know, okay, like I did my routine now, like I'm feeling ready for the game. Like if I don't do my routine before the game, I just feel like I don't have a feeling that I'm playing the game. So I always try to like have some routine before it. Nothing too crazy, but just some like physical activities in my life helped me a lot. So I would recommend everyone out there who is not doing to start doing it. I think it's gonna help them a lot.
I think that's like a good mentality to have as a professional gamer, and surely it helps like health-wise as well. You know, it's a big factor into that. But like
it helped me a lot throughout the career, definitely.
Did like face like, hey, we got a trainer for you to help you out and all that kind of stuff? Or how was it for you really back then?
Yeah, like no one really forced me to lose weight or start working out, honestly. Just myself, like I could not imagine being a superstar and not looking healthy or like not looking good. So that's kind of the mindset I have. So I was like, okay, if I'm gonna be a superstar, like I wanna be a role model for everyone. So that was the reason why I started doing it.
Impressive, Nico. Impressive. Like it's a really good describing of yourself. I think I don't think anyone would describe it like that, but when you're saying it, it makes complete sense of like, you're a little bit cocky, but you have all rights to be so because you're so fucking good. That's how I see on it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people see me cocky already and with a big ego and everything, but honestly, like I'm just always being honest. It's just who I am. Like I can't change, and Yeah.
I mean, it's not cocky when it's true, right?
I mean, for some people it isn't. So that's why they take it differently, which I understand. For some people, I'm not a superstar. I didn't achieve the things that to be the one, so I understand it. But I believe that I have what it takes to be one at least.
Yeah.
So I'm doing everything together.
I mean, if someone would disagree with you regarding that, then I would say that they're just stupid, if you ask me a personal opinion, because you are, man, you are. But thank you so much, Nico, for having the time and taking the opportunity for the interview. I would love to actually speak more, but you know, it is where it is. But still, looking forward to the next game, and good luck on DreamHack Masters.
Thank you, Chris. It was great talking to you, man.
Two superstars, you could say, having a bit of a conversation there. And I agree, anybody who disagrees with that statement is stupid. But we are going to have to move ourselves swiftly on. Now, I sort of mentioned it a moment ago. We do have the ESL Pro Tour, but I want to take a closer look, Vince, at the points that we currently have on offer. So 400 points for Europe, breaking it down. It's actually a pretty hefty drop off there. 265 for second place, but also points going across to North America, Oceania and Asia. And more importantly, we can actually have a look at how the sort of standings match up in the current state, because some of the teams are already looking at qualification. So you've got teams like Vitality, who are unfortunately not here, but Heroic and Astralis as well, who are already guaranteed to get themselves through to the main events for Katowice. And a few teams like Mouse Sports and Complexity are still in the running to try and get themselves in. Even Team Spirit in the mix if they can pull out a miracle or two along the way. Obviously for Gambit and Nemiga, quite far behind, but you never know, maybe a tournament victory could get them that little bit closer, or at least move them up the rankings a little bit. Going into North America, Furia lead the charge by quite a margin, right at the top of the board. And after a performance like they had yesterday, Vince, it was pretty damn decisive that they're going to be one of the teams that we see in Katowice. Of course, for Chaos, they are currently looking at a play-in spot, but you never know, maybe the grind can come out from them and might be able to even get a proper qualification spot along the way. So those are our points distributions. Those are how the teams are doing. But now, Vince, we do have to start edging towards our first match of the day. And unfortunately, it is going to be another elimination match. One of these teams is going to be going home. Nemiga, they showed they can fight up against G2. On the other hand, North, looking like they might be a little bit further behind. One team goes home. Join us after the break as we will have North versus Nemiga. Welcome back. Now, we're going to be moving fairly swiftly through things here, Vince, because I believe we have a match coming up that's about to be starting. So I just want to get straight into talking about North versus Nemiga. I feel like we're looking at two teams at the complete opposite ends of the scale. One that's been on the grind for a long, long time. I think you were there at the We Play Clutch Island, where Nemiga managed to get themselves into the top 4. During the CIS, like Region RMR, at the last one, they managed to get into the top 2. They have been getting increasingly better and better with time, even matching up on Mirage at least versus G2 yesterday. And I'll be honest, there's a part of me that loves and hates this team, but they are enjoyable to watch.
Oh, entertainment value is definitely there. You know, for the neutral that don't know much about Nemiga, haven't seen them a great deal, well, where have you been? But also, you're in for a bit of a surprise. You're in for a good time. Lollipop obviously rejoining the squad is a huge bonus, a huge buff. I saw Jo speaking on the first stream about how it's just a breath of fresh air, and it really feels like it unlocks the rest of his teammates because they have someone to rely on to frag out. So it should be really interesting to see how they perform now. Obviously, they're going against the North that are a little bit weakened, but Nemiga, for me, actually the favorites in this game.
Yeah, I would say so, definitely. I will say something else he said, though, was they tried to use communication more than they use utility, which that those things aren't exclusive, Joe. You can use both. So it's the classic CIS mentality, but you sort of mentioned it briefly. We do have to take a look at the other side of the coin, which will be North. A brand new couple of additions. We've seen the removal of AZ and MSL to the sadness of Elliot. But more importantly, they've added in a few like young talents as well. We've been looking sort of at Christo while we saw him over in the previous tournament on AGF, and he looked a bit up and down as an AWPer. Yesterday, though, they got absolutely obliterated by Furia.
Yeah, they did. We did say, though, that in terms of a team that's still finding its way, that is very new and fresh, Furia probably are the worst team stylistically to go up against. And when we spoke to Art in the post-game interview, he basically said, yeah, we went really loose and we just played to our strengths. And it showed in the server, honestly. North never really stood a chance. Now, I'm hoping that with Lekro, a very sort of stable and relaxed kind of guy, that they can have seen a few things in that last game and can actually start to go in the right direction. I don't want to mean any disrespect here to Nemiga. They're not a Furia. They're not quite at that caliber of level as far as I'm concerned. And so I think North will have a better chance. It's just whether they can actually follow through and convert chances, because they were few and far between yesterday.
Yeah, the one thing that worries me, though, is that we don't really know what map pool North have, whereas although Nemiga have some maps that I would say they're pretty poor at because they don't necessarily have a whole lot of strategies, they also have some that with Lollipop have been absolutely unbelievable. Like, for example, I think it was Inferno, they had a 10-map win streak, and that was including going through one of the CIS RMR events. The only team they ended up losing to was Virtus Pro. I think they lost one other match after that, and then Lollipop broke his hand, so I'm not going to consider most of those results too relevant. Then you have maps like Mirage, again, a very strong map for them. And even some of the slightly weaker ones, you kind of look at them and go, well, on a more puggy level, I feel like they're going to beat out a team like North. And that's the thing I almost feel bad for North on, is the fact that they are coming up against two teams that play some of the most unorthodox Counter-Strike, hyper-aggressive, pushing you to your limits, things that I feel like when you kind of look at that, you'll go, oh, well, it's going to be tough for them to sort of break down. Now, we are going to get into the veto. You mentioned it before that a permaban of North's has always been Mirage. On the other side of things, I imagine we're going to see Vertigo removed by Nemiga, although it's not one that I would say that they necessarily don't play. More so, it was one that North were actually very happy to play. So I think that's a good choice for them. Moving forward, North's pick's going to be the interesting one, though, Vince, because I assume that with no Mirage, we'll see an Inferno come out of the side of Nemiga. And Train was actually one of the maps that I considered coming through here for North as one that, again, with the previous roster was pretty strong. The problem is we're looking to see if Gade will put his own stamp on it, because at the moment, I'm sure they're still fairly much in the MSL era.
Yeah, it seems to be almost like this two-pronged layer, though, to it as well. It's not just that North have typically been a pretty decent trained team. Also, Nemiga, in terms of their win percentages and the amount of times they've played it, it's a bit on the low side. So you feel like there's maybe two sides to this as well. It does mean, though, that Nemiga can instantly go in, lock the map that you're talking about, that bastion, that fortress of Inferno, have phenomenal stats on it, and that puts it into Nuke for a deciding map. In terms of the statistics, pretty even between the two teams, but again, that comes with the caveat of we don't really fully know what to expect from North.
Yeah, and especially with the three maps that we have, CT sides are going to be so important for North. I am a little bit worried because fitting the two new players into the roster, I think is going to be relatively difficult. Like, to try and get everything sorted, like get them basically on point within a matter of days. Like they even sort of mentioned that Christo, they've had like 2 or 3 days to actually practice with him. Even though, like, of course, I think he's a talented youngster, he'll probably adapt quite quickly and just fit in. It's not going to be one of those things, Vince, where we're just going to go, he is now perfectly in position on every map and is ready to now just slot in like it was nothing. Of course not. And as said, like, I feel like Nemiga, well, the way they play Counter-Strike, there's kind of assholes in a sense. Like, they go very, very aggressive. They don't think about what they're doing sometimes. I would say, especially on Nuke, we see them like pushing very, very aggressively outside, running through smokes and doing things that basically you would never really expect. And that's why I genuinely think that this match is going to be a ridiculous one. One team trying to find their feet, the other basically just trying to kick their legs out. We're going to see Nemiga facing up against North. We'll be back after a short break. North have moved away from their almost iconic in-game leader to bring in some young talent and try and rebuild their, well, fleeting legacy, I guess you could say. On the other side, Nemiga are starting to build a name for themselves as a strong CIS squad who are pretty much one of the upset teams of this tournament, looking to do some damage and coming close versus G2. They now face off against North, who are still in the building stages, Vince. And as you sort of mentioned, I think Nemiga come into this one as the favorites.
Oh yeah, I definitely think that's the case. I would put Nemiga in the same kind of bracket as a Gambit or a Spirit, a kind of team that I absolutely think can upset some of the big boys, but also you expect them, and you expect their no-respect style of Counter-Strike to work very well, as it did for Fury yesterday against North. I don't really give them too much hope. I hope I'm wrong. I really want to see these young guns. I want to see Cristo, I want to see Kriaz do great things today. But my gut just tells me that Nemiga should walk through this one fairly convincingly. They start on the CT side as well on Train. So if they can get themselves established, North will be struggling. Got a bit of utility, couple smokes, molly, and a flash. And they're making moves simultaneously across the map.
I will say that for me personally, I think Nemiga are much better when it comes to their T sides, mainly because, well, a lot of their CT side plays don't necessarily make sense. J.O. though, that's a fantastic start. 2 kills, killing off the Ivy push, and now Box is the man in position to try and do the damage. He's got the rotation from Lollipop, who looks to try and support. The kills come back in thick and fast, leaving things into a 2v2 situation. Make that a 1v2, as MDS is the last left.
Indeed, MDS makes moves in. We got a chance to see him tilt firsthand in the November Open. Oh, it was glorious on Inferno. He'll be putting that behind him, though. And if he can start off with a clutch, all the better for it. They still have control over the bomb, 35 seconds, but his position has gone unchecked. And so North run the risk of walking into it. They push back to Pop Dog, and even though MDS has been tagged, they could have also rotated quickly towards B. So it was always going to be a difficult ask from MDS. He will fall, and North will claim first blood in our elimination match.
Letcro just insta-bought a sawn-off shotgun. I know that I should be talking about what just happened in the round, but it's a pistol round, and most of the time it just comes down to a brawl. Letcro has channeled his inner Swede. JW has incarnated him for these moments, and where is he going with okay, he has to go pop, right? Because I'm seeing him stand outside A main, and my head hurts, but well, it seems like his teammate's already gone towards pop. Unless they're trying to bait him into position. I don't like, I like the gun, don't get me wrong. Like, as a choice, I think it's a bit of spice, and I do like that, as Frankie said previously. But, I just don't see where this gun's viable.
Love a bit of spice, mate. Love it. Yeah, I mean, it is tailor-made for those up-close and personal kind of confrontations. The issue is that when you're on the aggressing team, on a map like Train, you're going to have to get out in the open at some stage. And he just jumps down and proves us both incorrect. And there's a second. What? Mate, Gade, if you'd got a kill at that range with the sawn-off, I would have just rage quit for Nemiga. That would have been ridiculous. Fortunately, he doesn't. But North have been so successful. And you could see that they actually bypassed some of the issues that the Sawnov actually has. They smoked off Catwalk, allowing him to drop down. He literally dropped onto the player's head so he didn't crater to his death and then put him out of his misery. That's incredible style points. No scout will be saved. And now Jo with the MP9. He's all alone, surrounded by North. What a great start for the Danes. +2 Swedes. You have to remember that now. We can't call them all Danish players.
That is true. That is true. I think the interesting thing there is that Letcro buys it, Gade gets damaged. He's like, give me the rest. I'll show you how it's done. He actually dives to the bomb. It's like a pure sacrifice. He's like, I will take 2 players down with a sword off, but I must give my life up to the almighty bomb to try and rectify things as we go. This is ridiculous. Even has a nice little skin on it as well. That's how you... Wait, what? It looked like he was aiming at his back. Okay. Well, cool. That's happened. Thankfully, the Sawn-Off is now out of the round, but Geo does still have his trusty MP9. Decent money made by Gade as well, of course. Something we don't really get to talk about too much is the fact that shotguns actually give you $900 per kill. So they are a fantastic way to make extra money. Well, that's true in many cases, really. Extra spice does get you extra money, Vince.
True. And now Nemiga. I think it's just best for both of us if I leave it there. I just drop the true and we move on. P250s are in play on Nemiga, but that's basically it. Good flashbang though. It's the USP that comes out ahead twice. And that's going to be 2 weapons to trade, and it's 2 Galils. Now they can post up at range, and North run the very real risk of just capitulating straight away.
I can't have 2 of these in a week. Like, this already happened once with Axile, and then he killed people with an AWP. Thankfully, it looks like they managed to fix things, and Speedak, well, he's made a little bit of extra money off the back of the USP. Not a huge amount, $300 per kill, but for the AWPer, that could make a big difference. He's up to 7,000 to buy straight back in with his gun of choice. Now, you mentioned MDS. Now, MDS is someone, like, when I spoke about aggression on Nuke, the dude's a madman. Like, it's sort of like someone has just told him to do something and he hasn't questioned it at all and has just run straight out and tried to kill people. And his style of play is very hit and miss. Like, more hit and miss than anyone I've ever seen in Counter-Strike. So, if he gets off to a bad start, we witnessed that the other day where I think he ended a map with something like 3 kills. When he plays well, he can be actually one of the better players for this roster. However, the focus we always have is we're looking at Speedak and we're looking at Lollipop. Lollipop is an absolute star. The fact he was one of the players that was initially scouted by Blade more brings home the fact that Blade seems to find young talent everywhere he goes. You think about the different players that have been in his rosters. That includes the likes of Simple and Electronic, even Bondic to an extent. And Lollipop was another that towards the end of his time as a player ended up in his team. So if you don't trust my judgment, you should trust Blade.
Kriaz, another youngster, was waiting up close. Box is yet to get any ADR in the first 3 rounds. And he is the player that's up against him. Smoke down. Chokes out this angle a little bit longer, and it's not as if North have gained a lot of ground elsewhere on the map. Starting to make moves through box halls with Gade and 2 outside of Ivy, which is Christo and Cajun. Flashbang for the peak. They went for this play a couple rounds ago, yielded quite a lot of success, and now the drop comes in. Oh, they've bit down hard on this. 4 players from the Nemiga go in. They think it's a full B hit, and now they realize that's not the case, and Lollipop has been suppressed without really anything in return. It's a great tactic from North, but it may not work out. Somehow Cajun doesn't shut down Jo, loses his life, but there's Christo to pick up the pieces. 2 kills go the way of the young Danish AWPer. But Speedak has his say too. He's put his AWP to use. MDS spotting the head. Over of Kriaz on top of the trains. Bomb ticking away in amongst all of this action. Speedak spotting Kriaz, and MDS will shut down Lekro and stop that win streak. But Tom, that is a round when you get 4 players to rotate to B and you move in. That miss from Cajun was so brutal, and that could very well have just cost them the round.
Yeah, he would have cut off the rotations as well, and he had a really rough day yesterday. I'm pretty sure I wrote down his rating was something like 0.49. Now, don't get me wrong, the whole team got battered. It wasn't just Cajun B's fault, but you don't want him to get off to a poor start. And yeah, the thing is, at this point, I start to question if even the North organization believe they're going to win this game. The tweet they've just put out says, win or lose, we will still learn. It's like if my organization tweeted that out, I would almost think that they're expecting me to lose. Like, don't worry, guys, it doesn't matter the result. Now, sure, I kind of agree with them in the sense, but come on, guys, have a bit of confidence in your team. 4 for 4 as one player has gone down from either side. Jo traded out by Christo, who's got off to a good start. And as I said, he is someone we watched in Open take over a couple of games. They were few and far between, but when he's performing well, he can dominate. And I think they're going to need that today.
Well, they'll need every little helping that they can get. Cajun, though, making amends, almost in an identical position to the last round where he did whiff. And Speedak will be joined by Box. Box still hasn't put a point of damage down. There we go. Damage and a kill. Looking for more. Doesn't quite connect it, and Christo goes down as a result. MDS with his M4 does show his hand in connector. They know that both of North are over on the A side of the map, but they were trying to relocate and push through together. Well-placed Molotov keeps them at bay. Now the 2 Belarus players will be looking to tag team their way through back into the open. Kriaz is now thinking twice. He's not sure where the oncoming CTs are coming in, and that's going to be showing it in itself with 2 kills back to back, 1 apiece on each side. Bomb's not planted ideally either. And if Christo's not careful, it may get fully defused under him, but no, Box comes off the defuse. Christo now goes checking, finds him, frags him. And Nemiga have been broken back down into bite-sized chunks.
That's a bold play from Christo as well. We saw that, like, obviously in hindsight, it's very easy to say, but if he just sticks that defuse, he wins the round. And the youngster playing the mind games with his opponent, hitting some pretty tasty shots in these early rounds. And that's the thing, if your uppers on point on the T side of Train, you're probably going to win the T side of Train. Like, there's a lot of opportunities for openers. If he could win more opening duels than he loses, it will set North up in a pretty good position. I was, however, sent a little stat earlier by Elliot, the #1 North fan, who decided to tell me even in 5v4 situations, they only won 29.4% of rounds, which that's probably the most damning stat I think I've ever heard. I do want to put the caveat that that was versus Furia. So we can give them a little bit of slack because Yuri, Vinny, Penny as well were just out of their mind yesterday.
Definitely the case. Still, though, this is stat that is relevance. Goes to show how much they struggled. North, so far, though, have been looking like a revamped, rejuvenated team. It is early doors, and obviously winning the pistol and keeping the CT economy is definitely going to help matters. In this round, though, it's only damage that Nemiga are finding. Not able to finalize anything. And North likely already off to a 5-1 lead, and we've already discussed this at length a few times, Tom, over the duration of the DreamHack Open November and the early stages of Masters. But this Train T-half, if you can get 5 or 6, that is pretty damn good. They're already at the 5 mark. And Nemiga, yeah, they got 1 round, but even that was a very close clutch that realistically should have gone the way of North anyway. So you're coming into this and you're thinking this could easily be a 6-0. Nemiga have been played off the map so far. This is already worrying me a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. And again, they're playing the CT side of this map almost the way I kind of expected them to. Like, they're reliant on different players being successful in their aggressive plays. Like, note how Lollipop's got off to a pretty poor start in this game, and it is almost paramount for this team that he doesn't have a bad game. Like, he needs to be that ridiculous hard carry, and a lot of the time in this map in particular, he's playing roles that are reliant on him just winning duels. Like, it's him pushing into A main. A lot of the time with Nemiga, I'm not necessarily sure that the supportive utility is going to be there. As said, there was literally a quote from them yesterday saying that, well, we use communication over grenades, which is actually, like, that. You have no idea, Vince, how angry that makes me that someone actually said that out loud. Like, that you would actually think that that's an okay way to play Counter-Strike. You can do both. But this team, that's the thing. Like, they're very exciting to watch. But when it comes to depth, when it comes to, like, further strategy, sometimes it's very, very basic. And in fact, on the T side of Inferno, I fully expect them to rush Banana almost every single round. I just keep fighting that position and go for very fast plays and leave Lollipop as a lurker. Like, we actually witnessed that even when they weren't playing with Lollipop, they were leaving Forrester as a lurker as well. That's it. It's like, if that player gets 2 kills and an entry on the other side, we go A, otherwise we go B. And on this map on the T side, I imagine it's not going to be an easy time for North. So I actually think that they need to do better on this T side. Luckily, again, it's a straight up solo play coming out from Speedak. No support, nothing that anybody can do to help him. If he gets a kill, fantastic. If he doesn't, well, again, they're in a 5v4 situation.
Yeah, in some cases, I mean, Nemiga kind of remind me of almost like a Furia Light or like a budget Furia in some respects, you know, and that's not necessarily an insult. Furia are 7th in the world and honestly probably going to be going up the ranks. A very, very solid team, certainly competent enough to do it. But I get what you mean. I think that it will be a difficult ask for North on the CT side, but here's the issue. If Nemiga only get 2 or 3 rounds, well, they've not given themselves enough foundation to realistically threaten North. 30 seconds, now the T's look to spill out onto the site. The molly damage with flashbangs is significant. It's severe, and Box had an opportunity to maybe spray down too. But he gets taken out the second he pulls the trigger. And Jo on the other side of the map, just looking to save. Again, it's familiar territory. And it feels like to me, Tom, that North, they've learned some lessons from yesterday. They've realized that they have got to step up their game significantly or they face elimination. And it is a team, albeit not this roster, of course, but it is a team, it is a squad, an org, that's had a pretty solid history when it comes to DreamHack Masters. They typically perform over their level when it comes to these events.
I think just DreamHack in general. Like I still remember like the few events that they did manage to win. A couple of DreamHack Opens were in there. With I think even going back like a year, like was it last year? DreamHack Severe, I think they managed to win. They just have pretty good performances at DreamHack. I'm not saying they're going to win this event. I think that's impossible. I don't say that often, but I genuinely think that's impossible. They're not ready yet. At the same time, the thing that infuriates me at the moment is the Nemiga right there, that first aggression, that was all in play. And that's what this team is pretty much. They make all in plays. But also, they then had a 3-man stack when the push came in and only got 1 kill. And then somehow, Lollipop manages to win a duel with the CZ. Granted, Christo was blind, but it just doesn't make much sense. He's had a quiet start to this game. Looks like he should get caught out here. Turns around and actually manages to get a second kill. The CZ doing damage. J.O.'s still got an AK and looks to make this work. A possible second round, but he takes an awful lot of damage, and I think he's dead to the nade.
He certainly is, but it's Nemiga again with pistols that are posting up more of a threat than any of their rifles. P250 for MDS stuck on E-Box. Knows the bomb is situated in Pop Dog, so one of these T's may have to bypass his position to get there. Molly in towards A main. Keeps them at bay, does more harm than good perhaps, but Cajun finds MDS as he tries to relocate. There will be no upset round here. Nemiga will get another buy, but they find themselves 7-1. And that flashbang, as you see from Christo, fully flashed, but it also flashed Kriaz, who is next to him, was almost playing this bodyguard system. He couldn't even peek to deal with the AWPer taking all that damage. So well played by Nemiga, all things considered, but contextually in the overall grand scheme of this map, it's not really good enough. They've got to start cashing out some of these advantages, and it has to start right here and right now. And they've already lost the first player, and Kriaz goes in for another. Box and Lollipop continue to have a rough start, as do Nemiga. And although damage has been inflicted towards Kriaz, who's posted up now on the E-Box, they still have to force their way back. They've been smoked and Molotoved into submission.
Well, they've still got the double AWP available, and in most situations, that probably wouldn't be too good, but with the bomb not down yet, and the smoke's looking like they're beginning to fade, could actually be enough to sort of pick their opponents apart. Geo with his secondary AWP is definitely decent. MDS, he's almost died twice now to just a Molotov. Getting caught in the corner. Speedak not being able to get his smoke into play. Now they're all coming from the same position. The utility thrown down by North is going to section them out, at least for the moment. But in goes Speedak.
And down goes Speedak. It's Lekro from above that will strike. And just like that, the eyes are closed again for an 8th time. MDS, 37 HP, will at least get 1. It does feel like a consolation, and Lekro will finalize. Nemiga simply have not shown up just yet, and North seemingly cannot miss. They're unleashing a lot of the youngsters. We saw Kriaz here pick up a beautiful double. Here it is now, you're witnessing it. With the AK, and that pretty much put the round to bed.
Is that a one-way smoke? Is that intentional?
I think so. You could see the player.
Yeah, you could see the legs underneath the smoke. That's quite cool. Normally you see the sort of electric box smoke just section things off and allow you to cross, but that was one that actually allowed them to see underneath it and gave a free entry kill. And that's the thing, Lollipop has got owned pretty much every single round. The only good round he's had was actually with a CZ. Other than that, he has done absolutely nothing. In fact, remove those 2 CZ kills, he's had 1 other kill. And he's meant to be the star of this roster, but at the moment it looks like, wow, he's just feeding. Hasn't done anything worth noting. And again, like, I don't think North have had to do anything complicated here. They've just been pushing out A main, taking raw individual fights. MDS, it doesn't even look like he knows where he is. just runs around the corner pre-firing nothing. And yeah, it's another round. They're going to get 9 on their T side. I haven't seen too much of Nemiga's train, but well, I'll be honest, Vince. I don't know if I want to see too much more.
Yeah, I'm alongside you in the right there. I mean, I'm curious on their T side, but again, as I mentioned before, you have to at least give yourself a chance on the T half. Like, you're coming through with just a couple rounds, pistol and it's done. Right idea from Christo, but it's actually Gade through the smoke. Will alleviate the pressure on saving these guns. Money is off the charts. 2 players already over $10,000. Gade and Lekro not too far behind that, so really North will be able to buy practically every round from here on out. There will be no freebies or gimmies for Nemiga. And if they're going to bring this back to a 9-6, will have to be blood, sweat, and tears and a lot of hard work. They do have a double AWP though, Tom, and maybe this is the remedy. This is the cure for this virus that's been spreading on their CT side.
Yeah, I think a big part of the round so far is that they have done a pretty terrible job of denying space from North out A main. And it's one of the most crucial portions of the map. Like, if you just continuously allow a team to get out of there and find opening kills, you're never going to win a map of train. And their only real reaction seems to be to just try and take it away. Well, for now, they've got a player in pop, a player on the outskirts, but they're not really playing this together. So again, it's just going to have to come down to those individual duels. And Lollipop, he's now stuck. He's going to take a lot of damage on his way out. North are doing a fantastic job. Look how much damage just Molotovs and a little bit of spam have done. And again, it's the same thing. Like, they've changed absolutely nothing. They're not trying to play as a group. They're not trying to set each other up as a unit. It's, I will take pop, I will take main, I will take Ivy. It's like watching a matchmaking game.
Yeah, there is a fluidity, isn't there, to North, because they're being afforded the chance to be fluid. They're afforded the chance to take all of these aggressive options because there's no resilience, there's no resistance at all. Wherever they decide to push, they're getting success. So there's no reason to change it. What a turnaround by North. Many people coming into this game after witnessing them get brutalized by Furia would have completely wrote them off. They'd have expected a very similar performance again. Not the case. Already 10 rounds. And it's Nemiga that I'm looking at and I'm thinking, is this all you've got?
I almost want to say that that round was just brain dead. They all just peaked the same guy again and again. Like, I get that you've got good individual skill. We know that. But Cajun B is a smart player. He's someone who's been around for a long time. He just repositioned onto the different angles, and each time one of them just wide peaked him. That's a very easy kill for him to take. And if you keep handing any member of North those sort of frags, I want to say they started off the round fantastically. Like, they are pushing and pulling Lollipop like it's absolutely nothing. Well, it's literally like stealing candy from a baby. Like, the Molotovs they threw in pushed him one way. It then pushed him into another Molotov that he then takes more damage from. By the time he gets out of there, he only had 30 HP. Great start to the round. But that's the problem I'm seeing with Nemiga. As said, like, it is literally like watching sort of a team that you see at a fairly low level where you just go, okay, you each have a position on the map that you have to play, rather than actually trying to, like, go for an upper take, like flashing players in, giving them control. And the funny thing is, in one of the rounds where they were using a CZ, they actually did that. And then in their actual buy rounds, they've just gone back to this individual style of, okay, I'm going to try and get a pick here, you're going to try and get a pick here, and hopefully we just all hit our shots and win the round.
You can certainly get away with that mentality more so on maps like Inferno and Overpass. But when it comes to Train, I really do feel like you have to have more to offer. And maybe that's one of the reasons why their win percentage, and honestly, they've barely played Train. I think it's like 5 times in the last 3 months as opposed to stuff like Inferno, which is more closer to 20. It just goes to show that there's a reason why North always had the chance on Train to make this work. And Lollipop, coming into this game, a 1.2 rating and impact level. It shows you how brutal this guy can be. At the moment, the only impact he's having is just his body hitting the floor every round. Like, there's just nothing else that he's offering. Nemiga are getting comprehensively outplayed from a team that have 2 rookies on there. Good players, sure, but rookies. And you're getting completely bodied now. Again, sure, it's not a great buy. but it doesn't feel like there's any impetus to try and get super aggressive and take the fight to North. This is a team, Nemiga, that have the skill to run through with pistols and land deeds. They have the skill to make that scout work, and yet they're sat back on the site, like really passive, deep on B site, barely even showing themselves. There's a timidity here, Tom. I wonder if nerves are getting the better of them.
Yeah, I always, that's the thing. I said at the beginning of the day that I both love and hate watching Nemiga. Like, there's been times that they have been very frustrating. I'm sure there's probably some people watching this who are saying, oh, you know, Tom's being a bit harsh. And you know what, that's fair. But I think that's because we know the capability of this team. And it obviously it's on the maps, which are like Mirage, like Inferno, where there are more, I want to say, standard pieces of aggression. Like, you know, the teams are going to fight banana. Like, that's the norm. So I think they're very good at taking those more basic strategies and executing them to a very high level. The problem is on the CT side of Train, you have to be very calculated with how you actually take map control, because most duels favor the Ts if they are waiting for you. Now, this round, I actually like the idea. Push 3 men. Fight them together. Go in, well, hopefully with some utility, but it turns out they're just going to try and take it dry. But at least they're doing something. As a team over Gade ruins them anyway. It doesn't seem to matter what they do at this point. Even when I don't mind the decision they've made, it seems like Gade has had enough. Leading by example, he's had a fantastic map so far. Jo will at least trade 1 back. And actually, SpeedX found another kill. This is looking hopeful. Well, the timing doesn't quite work out for him. They have a chance here, Vince.
It is a chance. If they want to try and battle back, they have got to convert this opportunity, because they won't come by it too often. Kriaz, still 100 HP as Gade spots Speed and slowly heading his way up the ladder and then goes in for the ace. Unbelievable from Gade. That's more like it. He's always had that ability level, but he's 19-4 and he's balling out of control. And that play you mentioned, I like that we did see some aggression, but without any flashes. Again, you even touched on this. Most angles will favor the Ts if the CTs peek into you. That's a spot where you can be killed from the upper levels or from the side towards Pop Dog. No flash. Gade just walks out. They all trip over each other's shoelaces and he gets a triple spray down. You could not epitomize Nemiga's issues more than that passage of play. The right idea, just a bad execution.
Don't worry, Vince. They use communication.
If we come really well, they might not be blind. Right, okay, cool. He's still dead.
You know, we'll blind them with our words. That's
Exactly.
what it is. They'll be so surprised by what we say to them that they won't be able to kill us anymore. That quote couldn't have come out worse. Obviously, maybe Jo didn't quite mean it in the way that it came across to me, and I'm taking it out of context a bit, but it's still funny, and that's why I keep repeating it. Either way, 12-1. Can't say it was a scoreline I expected. Very impressed with North, even just on an individual level. You got the likes of Gade, who's absolutely tearing them a new one. While in game leading as well, 19-4. And on the other side of things, there hasn't really been a shining star. Like, JO's been okay. The rest of the team, I would say, have been fairly poor. So needing a save-in, needing someone to step up. And with this B execution beginning, the flash from Gade's not fantastic, but it does give him the chance to pad his stats a little bit. They're running out of time, 20 seconds up and coming on the clock, and MDS is in a pretty decent position. Finds himself his 3rd kill of the round, finally having a standout round for him. However, the bomb is actually being fake. Christo baits him in, and that gives an afterplant situation now in a 2v2.
Find the box is about to make moves. He's 4-13 right now. AK trained up, and it's going to be Cajun that comes out ahead. Jo with a FAMAS at this range. They are both low, so maybe bypassed somewhat. His position is very much known, just below 50% of the fuse remaining. No kits, no grenades, no live Christo, no scopes in point blank, and again, a chance goes begging by the wayside on Nemiga. 13-1, Tom. How many people, realistically, even the most staunch North fan, can't tell me they ever expected North to be 13-1 in the lead on Train? I'm sorry, but I don't believe you.
I'm sure MSL saw it coming. don't know why. I just felt like it. Either way, push into the site. It's some MP9 for FAMAS and an M4. Box has run through a smoke and been killed by Lecro. KO has managed to get the trade. For some reason, I just have a feeling they're going to win this round out of all the ones that they've had. Spray through. MDS getting aggressive on his own, but he's actually going to get himself a double. Again, they take the advantage, but they've lost many more. Retreating through the Molotov's going to do a hell of a lot of damage, and Kriaz is waiting. Going to see the trade, though, from JO already. And, well, it did happen, Vince. They managed to get themselves a second round at the very end of the half, but they have got an absolute mountain to climb. We'll be back after a short break. Well, Vince, that was a very fun display from the side of North. They have shown that they can definitely do things on the T side of this map, whereas Nemiga showed that they like to try and take individual fights. We'll see if they can work a little bit better as a team going into the second half of Train, or if they are just speed running us straight through to Inferno.
There are not too many surprises in sort of like, you know, Nemiga's ideas and the sort of theory, I suppose, of how they want to play. The surprise to me was just how badly it all came together. Kriaz doing a decent chunk of damage with a frag, and then does get picked off from Lollipop, who probably won't anticipate that two players would be over here. The kind of angle you may get double peeked in, but he is still doing his due diligence. Not overextending just yet. Will be moving in. Has 58 HP, but one of those P250s, Christo, one of the few players that does actually use the P2000, and he takes the head off of Lollipop. It was the same player that aggressed onto his teammate, so it stands to reason this won't be a B hit, especially as JO's been dispatched by Cage and elsewhere. And now Nemiga look to stomp onto the site. And this was a huge lifeline they desperately had to get a hold of. It may not be over just yet, though, because Cajun's been tagged down to 36. Still, though, holds on and drills box in the head. Gade misses out on adding to those 20 kills after a phenomenal first half, but it doesn't really matter. North still get the pistol, and surely, Tom, that's the map that follows.
Well, yeah, if not, then North might have to already start looking for replacements, because that would be a true atrocity if they managed to lose a 14-2 scoreline after winning the pistol and after Nemiga have shown absolutely nothing. So, yeah. Lollipop, unfortunately, has not been able to have the same hero performance, and although there's been a moment or two from a couple of their players, this has just turned into a brawl. Christo goes running through with a flashbang from Lekro. You know, that's a good thing to see. We like flashbangs in Counter-Strike, Vince. They're cool.
Yeah, I hear they're pretty useful from time to time. And the difference as well, by the way, the pop flash from the, I think it was Lekro behind him. Christo gets really aggressive with the MP9. Obviously, that's money towards the AWP fund. Work to Dream. They did come out worse for wear elsewhere, though, on the map. Although Lollipop is low and Speedak's taking a bit of chip damage. It is a 3-on-3. Obviously, Nemiga forcing in. They can't afford to play slowly anymore in terms of their economy. Pretty much every round from here on out is going to be putting all their money on the table. But Kriaz getting information, wrapping round the back. This allows them to put the last two players on A. They know that B site is no longer a threat. It's no longer on the table. This is looking grim for Nemiga. Good positions also being taken. Kriaz now just a few moments away from flanking in and shutting down Lollipop. Down goes Lollipop, and now they can turn their attention towards Ivy. I'm not sure why Cajun switched angles. Kriaz had that covered. And now Jo's going to sprint onto the site where Gade is waiting. Above them, he will strike with the FAMAS for one, and there is Kriaz at range with the MP9. That is an awkward round for North, but they get it done just about, and now have 13 map points.
Well, they lost all their rifles, and Lekro, after buying a sawn-off earlier in the game, has decided to buy a P90. I'm starting to question if some of his binds might have messed up a little bit with the purchases, or if this is just a little bit of BM. And you know what? I don't mind it. I think they've absolutely dominated this game. It's time to have a little bit of fun. Same Molotov has caught Speedak off twice. To be forced back off the angle. It gives a lot of aggression available for the side of North, and this is how you take control. Like, this was something that was attempted regularly from Nemiga, and although they did have the deep smoke and the Molotovs, they were never able to actually hold on to that control. Continuous utility being expended to deny any space for the side of Nemiga, and the only position they've really been allowed is the upper B halls, which it seems like North aren't really fighting for.
I wonder if BM is contagious, Tom, because they got wrecked by a P90 essay when they got banged by Furia, and yet here they are, they're passing it forward. So, very similar kind of scoreline taking shape as well. Cajun waiting for that smoke to clear. Gade elsewhere, though, goes in on Lollipop. There's the flashbang, there's the peak. Not quite a double kill, but information attained, damage inflicted. And Nemiga, on their last couple of legs, will be trying to push through as a united force with Christo and Kriaz with the MP9. The curtain is coming down. It's going to be all over. And at least North have the decency to finish Nemiga off quick. They don't want to play with their food. We'll be heading to Inferno, barring an MGS miracle. First kill goes in, but there's Kriaz. 16-2. North, what a bounce back.
Well, after yesterday, I thought that the matches we saw from North were going to be the fastest matches that me and you casted, Vince. It seems like Nemiga wanted to attempt a speed run on map number 1. They lose 16-2 and never really got into this map whatsoever. Probably one of the most disappointing performances I've ever seen from a team. Not using utility was definitely a questionable choice in quite a lot of positions. And nonetheless, before I pop a vein in my head, we're going to go out to a break. Well, that was one of the fastest maps I think I've witnessed in a long time. North coming swinging with pretty much every piece of the puzzle playing to a high standard, and unfortunately on the Nemiga side, there was absolutely nothing there, Vince. Like, even when it came down to sawn-off plays, it looked like they were having a bit of a laugh on the side of North, and that was at the very beginning of the game. By the end of the game, they were buying P90s.
Yeah, Tom, I mean, the stats don't lie, do they? 16-2, every bit is one-sided. One of the rounds that Nemiga picked up, remember, Cajun actually whiffed a spray, could have been 16-1. Hell, it could have been 16-0. Gade finishes with 22 kills, 109 ADR, nearly a 2 rating, and he is leading the troops right now. Everybody on North has more kills than deaths, every single one. The lowest rating they had was a 1.16. This is one of the most one-sided games of Counter-Strike you will ever witness at the pro level.
Yeah, and it was quite a frustrating one to watch. Like, again, like, you have Nemiga with a coach, not really taking tactical pauses to try and talk anything through. And it seemed like a lot of their rounds up until, I think it was like round 12 or something like that, was basically just them trying to take individual fights. Like, it was, okay, I'm in Pop Dog, you're in main, you play Ivy, and if we win our duels, we win the round. If not, then that's it. That's the round over. And it took until very late stages before they actually tried to do something like with, well, I was going to say with utility, but together. And that was another thing. Like, we mentioned the sort of interview where they spoke about like utility usage and maybe not necessarily being a big part of the game. That was actually quite evident here, because a lot of the time it was just people dry peeking. One of those highlight clips was of Cajun B just sat on an angle and 3 different people just going, okay, well, my teammate just failed at killing him, but I know that I'm better, so I'll go do the same thing again. And it didn't work. He just sprays down 3 people. And there were countless rounds like that. The one where you pointed out Gade was just sat on an angle. He gets a triple spray down because they all line up. No utility used again. And it's sort of the double-edged sword that is Nemiga. They seem to have these crazy individual plays on certain maps. They play very well, but unfortunately on others, it just looks like they're completely disjointed.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not going to play with a lot of utility, then you need your star players to shine pretty consistently almost every single game. Lollipop finished with 7 kills, 60 ADR. Barely scratched the surface. Speedak, 9 kills, 48 ADR. The top fragger was Jo, who did pretty decently considering a 16-2 loss, but there was nothing. Like, they actually offered nothing in any feasible metric. And now we move across to Inferno. I expect them to do much better, don't get me wrong. There's every chance they bounce back and we just forget about the train performance. But if there's anything like that in their locker room again, North are going to stomp them and Nemiga will be eliminated. They cannot play like that again. They're on their last lifeline now.
Well, we could sit here and almost just analyze what went wrong for Nemiga, but instead, after the loss yesterday, we had a bit of a chance to chat with North, so we're going to show that to you now.
The game against Fear and Overpass, we did expect them to be aggressive on all sides of the map, but that's the thing with them, they just take you off guard. Even though you're ready for it, I think you kind of end up messing with yourself in your head, and they're really out there guns blazing, and they give you a really tough time when they take the easy picks.
Difficult for them to try and find the remaining players. Gabe now having such a powerful angle versus Gabe. It's left all onto Henny.
I remember we've played against Nemiga. They also have the aggressive playstyle, as far as I remember. It's about being ready when the match starts, because you're not supposed to be taken off guard. So I'm just hoping for a better showing individually and as a team, so that we can punish the offensive plays that people are doing against us. I just really want to win a match right now, so I'm looking forward to play again.
Given time for the rotation, given an opportunity, and Christo with the snapshot takes down a second through the smoke.
It's good to see that Gade didn't let that loss yesterday affect him too much. They were the underdogs. They seem to have agreed and admitted to that, and they saw some of the issues that came about. He said he just wanted to win a match right now, and the way they're playing right now, Tom, against a very weakened Nemiga, I could definitely see them doing it.
Yeah, he even mentioned the fact that it was like, oh yeah, I think they're another one of those aggressive teams. Well, he was definitely right. Like, again, some of the fights they were trying to take weren't necessarily ones that I like to see from this squad. But luckily, Vince, we are going to be heading our way towards Inferno. There's this map that before Lollipop had his injury, they only lost once, and that was to Virtus Pro. Other than that, it was a 10-map win streak for Nemiga. Looking to try and bounce back after what just happened on Train. We're going to see if they can turn the tide or if North will get their victory.